about the allegory, and because something in.
There's noise on the line.
Oh, that was my phone.
Hey?
That was my phone because the cord that connects to the mouthpiece, when it moves, it makes like a static noise.
Yeah.
So you were saying something like an allegory, and
yeah, I was saying that when I read that thing. By the way, it was a train in Washington.
Oh.
Okay. Pair of trains in Washington. That if I was writing the script for the controllers, that is how I suggest they would announce that the experiment with the hadron collider was successful.
Oh.
A collision has occurred. And with the occurrence of a collision comes the question, what happened? Most likely outcome is that it would ignite the
coal seam?
The coal seam and begin the process of creating the mote.
Now, how long does that take? I never.
I don't know. I suppose would be approximately anywhere between 1 and 3 years to see the net effect of what is happening. Because when you burn coal, it turns to ash.
Yeah.
When it's ash, it doesn't occupy the same space. Therefore, things that are on top can collapse. And you have the problem of black water, which is coal and water mixed together, being heated and catching fire and turning into basically burning gas underground. Then you have the real gases themselves that come off of it, and the pockets of petroleum that explode to create brimstone, what they call it, fire and brimstone. So all of that, I imagine, is a result of a period of time. Now, we know as well that we're in a period where they've been discussing the landings at Normandy. The landings at Normandy to end World War II were preceded in time with a whole bunch of orchestrated activities to make the Germans believe that things were going to happen that didn't happen, in order to deflect their attention away from watching Normandy. This basically what they're doing. They know that there are a whole community of people out there watching their messages. They're going to be putting out messages to see if people will overreact. That could be. All we know for certain is the window is there. We're within the window. So, it can be real. It would take a while for us to see the outcome. Or it can be just talk for the purpose of misleading.
I really don't want to wait to see if it's real or not.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out why so many people that I talk to try to put me off of you. They keep asking me, why I talk to you, that getting into more and more trouble every time I talk to you. I said, I don't understand. I don't have any problems with Gerd. What's the problem? Can't seem to get an answer, except people say things like, he doesn't believe that anybody can like him, and if anybody talks to him like a normal human being, he kind of feels they gotta be false.
What? That doesn't even sound like me.
Yeah, I can't figure out why. Yeah, after Alan Watt, you're the one they attack the most.
Oh, all right.
Why? What is it you do that turns these people off? Are you on the air or something on a regular basis? Or?
No, I'm not on the air. I the only closest thing I had to being anything like that, I had like it was just like you can just go. It's like a website you can go on, and just basically like it'd be like a three-way conversation, phone conversation. You just record it, and we just talk with me and other people. But I never had any. I'm not. I don't think I'm even known like that. But.
That's why I couldn't figure out. I had never heard of you before you called, so I can't figure out. Is there a bunch of people out there in the system that hate what you're doing? Or?
I would think so. I sometimes I think that, like how my computer was shut down, and because all the videos, most of the videos that I even see out there on the internet are for me.
Yeah.
That I put out there. So maybe I don't know. Maybe people just.
It may think you're a booster of mine or something.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Probably.
Any event, I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. Why would they say that? It's people that call you up and just
call or send emails or.
Oh. Wow.
I've learned there are a lot of people out there that are not nice.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised by anything anymore.
Yeah. I was just thinking the other day. I think I mentioned this to you. I'm just scared. I don't want like somebody to get like sent towards my direction and I don't know, distract or try to deter me or something. Because you said you had people like that sent towards you. So.
Yeah. I mean, they're part of the role that priests and nuns play, especially if they're in convents. And they're given a computer. They're told, get on the net and deal with the net as if you were next door neighbors. Anybody attacks religion, gang up on them. And they do.
Well, I see that. I think that's why they created the internet.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of egos, really.
Yeah. Basically, it's a spying tool. Let your fingers do the talking.
Yeah. Well, I don't want people like I don't know throughout life, like off the internet. I just don't want like. Sometimes I think like cause you say how they're all like with the genetic engineering and women and everything. I don't want like you never know, man. You get a woman sent towards your direction and.
Well, that's certainly a weapon.
Think about stuff like that. I don't know. I really, it's how it started out. Like I found your stuff and I got into it. I didn't really want to believe it. Then things in my own life and it was like a painful type of thing. And then I don't know. Over time, I started proving things to myself, but I don't know other people. I guess because it's like a path that you can't go with other people. It's like
it's hurting for someone who believes that people and the system is real and good, to all of a sudden realize the things they believed in are not true.
Yeah.
That hurts. There are some people who can't go there.
Yeah.
They might have feelings that the system is not good, but they're locked in and they just don't want to go. And that's a majority, I would suspect.
Yeah. But what hurt me was just the most painful part was how human beings even came to exist. That's what really got me. And I guess a lot of people can't. What I see with people that I was friends with, like, and I still am. I guess you could say friends to a certain extent, but they just don't believe the genetic engineering, and that's like really the fundamental. You know.
A lot of people, have been taught from birth that evolution is not possible.
Mm-hmm.
Other people have been taught that evolution is everything, and they can't add genetic engineering as something that can be manipulated in the world of evolution.
Yeah.
So you're fighting fundamental basic teachings, and for most people that comes from their parents, and like me, and I guess you and everybody else, you say, would my parents have lied to me? Parents would never lie to me. Well, of course they lie to you if their parents lied to them, and their grandparents lied to them, and doesn't mean they did so knowingly. They just repeat what they've been told.
Yeah, and I found myself like I really in society. it's everything. It's funny how like they don't want to hear what I gotta say. So when that means they don't want to hear what I have to say, I have to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
All that stuff. And it's really the core beliefs. And the other day I was talking to somebody. He was just telling me. He's like, Jared, I just don't care. I don't give a shit about any of this. I don't care at all. And that kind of like bummed me out. But then I learned from that. I learned, you just don't.
I had even worse than that. I gave a talk in Saskatchewan about the genetic engineering of food and how it was being manipulated through Archer Daniels Midland. Mm-hmm. And one guy got up and said, "How do you spell that name?" And I spelled that out for him. He says, "I'm leaving now. I'm going to buy their shares."
Wow. Wow.
So I guess the guy who doesn't care was not as bad as that.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm trying to learn to like it's almost impossible to like live to try to like I can coexist. I don't know. I just can't deal with the I guess when you see everybody doesn't see it like that, so they accept it all, and I just can't accept everything that's happening around me. Like this, the day-to-day robotic slavery, and so I try to do what you said, just keep trying to accumulate knowledge and
do what you can daily with what you have daily. Don't worry about tomorrow, and don't worry about lacking the tools. If you keep on working at it with what you have every day, more and more tools are supplied to you as more and more knowledge comes to you.
Yeah. And all that stuff, it comes with time, really. Mm-hmm. So I'm being patient.
The only thing we don't get ahead of time is a schedule.
Yeah. I
was telling one of the guys, there's one of the guys that's off the net that's here now. Mm-hmm. And seeing how he can fit in. Mm-hmm. And, is planning to make this his permanent task.
Mhm.
So see how it works out.
Yeah.
Seems to have a functioning brain.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, I called. I was trying to with this paperwork I got to do. It's really I don't know. I laugh at how when you look at other people who have like a little bit of power, and I guess it gets to the head.
Yeah. And a lot of people who in their daily life have no power take their position on the net as a place where they can create power for themselves.
Yeah, that's what I see too.
Yeah.
But I'm not on the net for really like I'm not here to get power out of it. I'm just trying to. I'm learning and I'm just putting what I learn on the net.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. So you could take it for what it is. I guess either hate it or love it. People say.
Yeah. There's other people who say better to be hated than ignored.
Yeah, I guess. Right. Still getting attention. Yeah. So I'm trying to learn. There's like so many with this stuff. So many fields of like science and that you have to look into. Like you were telling me epigenetics and
Epigenetic, yeah.
man, I'm probably not gonna get into that one for a while. 'Cause I'm still looking into this whole.
We got time.
Yeah.
You're not 40 yet.
Yeah.
You got to go through all of these things in their appropriate place and time in your mind.
Yeah.
You're writing a book. It's your book, the book of your life. In that book, you have to put the chapters in order. So some things go at the beginning, some things go in the middle, and some things go at the end. And you try not to complicate your life too much. Because having a nervous breakdown is of no use to anybody, especially you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't see myself having a nervous breakdown anytime soon. No. Well, I've been reading this stuff. I'm one part of it. I'm trying to learn a little bit. I'm getting to a part where this guy is getting into astronomy and how like in the past the ancients they used to talk about how the soul like passed through the Milky Way and stuff like that. What were they talking about really when they said that? Like that it passed through the Milky Way and the stars. Are they talking about what I'm thinking they're talking about? Like
no, it has nothing to do with real activity that affects us on Earth. You have to go back to the basics. That says Freemasonry is a system of
I knew it was an allegory for something
illustrated by symbols.
Yeah.
So illustrated by symbols. What symbol could a person have 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago that they could all follow around the world? There's only one, the stars.
Yeah.
So by studying the stars, and if you've been studying the stars not as an individual but as a group of people and recording that activity, and you've been around for 100,000 years, it basically means you've seen everything that goes on in the heavens 4 times. If you've seen it 4 times, you have the right to make the judgment that it's proof that it's going to happen a 5th time and a 6th time. So you start thinking of the stars not as twinkling things up in the sky, but as benchmarks on a plan, so that you know where you are when you divide up your time. You can divide that precession into smaller units of time, which they call phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Phoenix work in pairs. So 484 years, 16 years cleanup, 16 years of transition to the new one, and 484 years again, and you've got a period of 1,000 years.
I've read too that the Phoenix, when you break down the word, is also like Phoenix or Enoch.
Yeah, well, if you start with the pH, you have 16. If you take the visual appearance of pH, 16. If you look at OE, it always fits with from where you begin. An esophagus is where you put the food in. A home is where you live. Oedipus Rex represents incest, which is basically the only way the original people could make other people, since they were all brother, sister, or mother, father, aunt, uncle. There was no other people around. So O and E is the beginning, and A and E is at the end.
Now, the people that practice incest today, I've heard, some of them on top of the pyramid over there, like some of them may practice incest. Do you think they're trying to go back into like how?
Well, we're living that age. If you look around you, everything that is happening over the last year or so, and especially since the Academy Awards, it's all linked to going back in time. You have a movie that was called Benjamin Button, about somebody who's born old gets younger. A button is a symbol of going back in time. It's since been replaced by zippers and other locking devices that don't need to be handled the way buttons were. The guy who's winning the most races on the Formula One is called Button. The new president of Israel is Benjamin Netanyahu, a guy who used to be president, going back in time. Everything is kind of attaching itself to, old golfers won the U.S. Open ahead of Mickelson and Woods, going back to how it used to be. So why are they doing all of this going back in time? It's simply because at the beginning, people were 2 in 1. They were hermaphroditic. Yeah. And going back in time basically means we're recreating hermaphrodites, except this time it's a hermaphrodite plus. It's a hermaphrodite made up of 6 components rather than just the original 2. Male, female, you add Neanderthaler, and then you add a communications system, and then you add high speed, 24/7, and you add two-way information flow from media, and you put it all in a pod, because they consider us to be like peas in a pod, and it's a pod for one. So you're getting information from headquarters aimed only at you. It's not mass distribution. The information you'll get is basically everything's designed just for you. So the whole thing put together, they call a belt. Where do you get a belt? Well, the rocks around the base of a mountain are called a belt because they're the hardest rocks as the pressure of the mountain pushes down on them.
How about Orion's belt? Was that related?
Yeah, it's all has to do with solidifying, hardening something. Steel-belted tires mean that you've done something within the tire to make it tougher. In nature, water falls from the sky. If it gets picked up by a flow of air that brings it back up, it turns it into snow. If it brings the snow back up again, it turns it into ice. So going back to the beginning makes it tougher. Iron you put on in the fire and then on a hammer, and you hit it, and then if you use it, it's iron. If you put it back in the fire, you get steel. If you put steel in the fire, you get chrome. You know.
Chrome magnet. And that's the thing. I watched the video after you talked to you last weekend or last week, and it was the crow, this crow right here, right?
Yeah.
They were trying to get into a walnut, and so what they did, they would take the walnut and drop it in the middle of the street. Would cause it to run it over.
Yeah.
That's an intelligent animal.
Yeah.
To do that.
The most intelligent of birds. But if you want to find out why they call themselves Dean, the one with the most knowledge, it goes back to the dinosaur, Dino, ruse, soar, ruse. And the dinosaur starts off not with the giant things we see in movies. It starts off with a small animal the size of a cat. It divides itself in three by climbing up a tree. From a tree, it learns to come down the tree and walk on the ground when it's safe. That's where humans evolve.
I thought we came from the ocean. I thought we were more related kind of to the ocean.
Well, that's before the dinosaur. You have to, if you go past, you have to begin with the eel. Yeah. The eel is the symbol of your spine, and the eel eventually grows feet and legs like a crocodile or alligator, comes out of the water to lay its egg on the beach. So all of those things are linked, but the animal that climbs the tree creates, as I said, the human on the ground, the monkey in the tree, and the bird that flies off, because the original things they did in trees was jump from branch to branch and learn to glide, and from gliding, the normal evolution of things is you grow the wings the same way as the animal that walks on the ground grew the legs and arms, and you fly. So if you look at the nature of cats, which I do all the time, there's no doubt that that's the social engineering program that the original women were on. Cats don't discriminate when it comes to kids. So if they see something that needs food, it just basically joins the batch and feeds off the cat. Now, if a new animal appears on the surface called human, Homo habilis, and it has no place to eat, and it lives in a place where there's any one of the members of the cat family, and it's not presenting a threat to the cat. It looks defenseless like any other baby. It will find a place at the table. And since they've used the Sphinx as the model, they're telling you that you can make a person that's partly animal and partly person. All of the Greek mythology shows a lot of symbols like that you can mix and match all parts of animals over time, as long as you don't try to force it to happen tomorrow. You have to let it adapt little bit at a time, as the plants that grew on the bottom of the ocean could not leave the bottom of the ocean and come to the surface in one felt swoop, because the pressure change would destroy it. But by attaching itself to rock faces and spending a few thousand years, a few feet higher, over time it makes it to the surface, and it has adapted to the change in pressure. So there's no doubt that we come from chemistry. Yeah. Chemistry comes from comets and water, and therefore the sea is the basic place where life begins. It's a concept that water is fresh and that life is salty. The longer life lives and dies, the more salty the ocean gets.
And that salt, it becomes like concentrated, I guess, at the bottom.
At one stage of the game, if you leave it in water, the water will die. Dead Sea, Salt Lake City, that kind of stuff. So it develops a system of cleansing, which is pressure. Once you get to about 11% salt in the water, it forces all of the excess down into the sediment at the bottom, and eventually works its way down to the mantle of the Earth's core and creates a shell on top, and that's what we call basalt in the Moho discontinuity.
Now they create, I think they in their religion, they create dogmas and say, now I think like the dogmas that they use, it's like partly true, like, because they say like all the elements, fire, water.
Yeah.
They say that these are purifying, these purify, but I think these are just, this is what like DNA, like it just passes, I guess, through these different.
And they're all a symbol of power. If you get too close to fire, you burn and you die over a short period of time. If you get too much water, you drown over a period of time. But the real killer of all is air. And air is the minute you remove it, the person dies. It's not a time frame type of thing. It's instantaneously, because the body can't function without air, period. Yeah. So in water there is oxygen, and therefore you do survive a little longer than you do. In fire there is air until it's removed, and then you die. But it's the air that has the power, and that's why they use the concept of air for IRS. Since the A and the S in Cavalarian count are both number 1, and they're therefore interchangeable. So the power they're talking about when they're talking about IRS is having money allows you to breathe and live. Having no money causes you to shrink and die.
According to the economic system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something interesting I was thinking about. I remember when you in the movie. It's an older movie. It's a movie I watched a while ago. In Children of Men. In the movie, they're all sterilized. Nobody can have children. And I thought about what you said. How that the human beings today, like, they watch the surnames and they basically gotta, I guess, renew. But you said after 4 generations, the person cannot have children anymore. So if they just stopped even manipulating, nobody would have children after a while, right?
Well, nobody would have children by copulation. That doesn't mean no one would have children, because the design, as I understand it, they have for the super slave is one that has no genitals. It's the Barbie doll,
Mhm.
and the Barbie doll is basically means that you have no male or female genitals, and if the creator of that person really wants to be nasty, he can give them the urges without the tools. And under those circumstances, the role of the belly button would change to become one where you insert an egg, because you're a female veneer on the outside, it's female person, and it is fertilized inside by the male portion that's inside. And when it reaches a certain stage of growth, it climbs out like any marsupial, and it has the feeding stations, the breasts of woman there to carry it through. So like a monkey, it hangs on to its mother and feeds until it walks on its own and eats separately. So the kangaroo, any marsupial is the model.
Yeah.
The other model, of course, you have in Australia is the weapon they use.
Boomerang.
Boomerang. It always returns, so you can be certain that although you're throwing them out into space, the task is for it to send back stuff.
That's another thing too. If they're gonna destroy everything, including the mode of continuity, how will even the computer repopulate the Earth? How can it do that? Because everything
even though you destroy the planet as a place where people live, doesn't mean that when you stop destroying it, it doesn't return to its original way. It just takes time.
Oh, so that's just
computers just sit there and wait it out. And in the world of the universe, a few 100,000 years ain't nothing to worry about. So if it takes 1 million years, that's fine too. So Earth is a self-generating planet. It has what it requires to cleanse itself given time. So it will do what it did before. It will basically separate water from land. It will create continents. It will, in fact, have mountains. And what the computer is planning is to do it in such a way that there will be only 2 continents, one at the north and one at the south. They will occupy the one at the south, so their servants will basically be receiving stuff and giving out orders from the south.
But I wonder, because the computer doesn't need anybody, and it's going to destroy everything. Is this thing even mobile? This computer can it even move?
Absolutely, it's on a levitation magnetic field, and it travels through the tunnels in the upper mantle, both of them on opposite directions. Think of it like the circles around an atom.
Yeah.
And that's what it's doing. It's constantly working around the atom, and the atom is basically its hadron, its bags are inside, and depending on which quarks and neutrinos and whatever they cause to go into each bag, they will create life. So they start the process all over again. That's the principle of a particle accelerator. Is everything is in bags. That's why you can't see them. They are the component parts of each atom. But if you want to photograph them, you cause a collision, and when 2 bags bang together, they throw out what's inside, and what's inside can't stay outside, so it immediately is looking around for another bag to get in. And as it enters another bag, it changes the formula of what's in that bag, and it creates new life. Now, normally when you create competing forces, one gets destroyed that exists in the past while the new one takes over. And that's, concept of changing from dinosaur to people. Go from size matters to size is irrelevant, brain matters. And if a brain matters, it's got to have two parts to it. It's got to have a part that it works in real time based upon reasoning, and it works out the facts as it can see out in front of itself. And then it must have the ability to dip back into past experiments of trial and error, which all exist in the gray matter of the spine when we were eels and making our way up the food chain to become walking animals on Earth, and cats that climb trees, and monkeys that stay there, and people who walk on the ground, and birds who fly in the air. So all of that old stuff resides in the spine.
You think the slave will have that? The new slave will have any?
Well, it obviously has it if they're sending Neanderthaler in a kind of a reduced state, like a bonsai tree, in the neck. So it's obviously there to block out something. Otherwise, it would just let it go, and it wouldn't give it any information from the spine. Wouldn't need the Miss Piggy or Porky Pig up in the neck area.
Where did you get that term, the piggy?
Well, it's all part of the cartoons that Walt Disney and Walter Lantz put out.
Yeah.
And what these characters did. Muppets are another. Miss Piggy was in the Muppets, and so each cartoon character is basically a symbol for real people.
Yeah.
They're giving you messages through some other means. Bambi.
Oh yeah.
A deer that basically hasn't got a mother in the woods. Tarzan, linked to tar sands. In any event, Jared, it's past my bedtime.
Well, you got me wondering, man. Who would say that about me?
Well, there seems to be more than one. So when things start to look organized.
And you got all right. So that just tells me everything.
Yeah.
All right, Glenn.
Okay.
All right.
Bye for now.
All right, bye.
Okay.
All right.
Bye for now.
All right, bye.
Okay.
All right.
Bye for now.
All right, bye.